Over the last few months, I filmed a lot of different sport events, including multiple arm wrestling tournaments in Orlando and New York, soccer, and other related projects. And so I did my fair share of mistakes, but also I learned from that experience. So let's go over 5 common mistakes that people do when they try to shoot sports. I can't emphasize it enough, but the wrong choice of lens can ruin the shoot. Well, not destroy it, but definitely not gonna help. Just think about it. You have camera with a 16mm and you're shooting a soccer game. All of a sudden there's a counter-attack, the ball's on the other side of the field. There's nothing you can do with the 16mm, but just the wide shot of everything. And that's not what you're looking for. That being said, however, I'm not saying that there's only one right choice of lens for all the sports. Because I film sports using 16mm, 50mm, and 70mm, and was able to get the footage that satisfied the client in all cases. So let me really quick go over a few tips that can help you to choose the right lens. First of all, what sport are you shooting and what area is available to you to stay at? 2 quick examples. I was shooting arm wrestling once and I was given a permission to walk all around the table because it was like 360 view, so I wasn't really blocking everyone. Since I could get so much close to athletes' little like extended arm length, I know that 50mm or even 30mm not gonna work. I needed to go with 16mm. And here's just 2 or 3 quick shots from this event so you can see what I'm talking about. But then I was shooting a soccer event once, and I knew that as close as I can get to the field is gonna still be on the sidelines. So I decided to go with 50mm. That was still not ideal. I would recommend going with 70 to 200 or something like this, but it was still better than 16 or 30mm that could not get the same result. Second tip, consider the light situation. If you know you're gonna be shooting in an extremely dark environment, maybe your Tamron lens 17 to 70 2.8 not really gonna do the work because it's gonna be lacking light stops that you need. One of the arm wrestling events I was shooting was in the hotel room, so I decided to go with 1.8 lens to kind of give me additional light stops and making the image just a little bit brighter. And the third reason to consider, what's the purpose of the content? If you are shooting a spec ad looking for a super cinematic content, then yeah, you probably need a lot of close-up shots, so probably you'll need a lens that goes 50mm and up. Otherwise, if you're shooting a UFC match where everything moves pretty rapidly and you need to capture both athletes at once, maybe 16 to 35mm will be your best choice. Mistake number 2 I see a lot of videographers doing while shooting sports is staying in the one place. Just imagine the basketball game and all the highlights are coming from the same angle. If you're just broadcasting it for YouTube, fine. But if you're working on some dynamic content for social media, you need to change angles. That being said, I'm not recommending to experience with chaotic camera movements, especially if you don't know what you're doing. So let me give you a quick list of few moves and angles that I use majority of the time. Neutral angle, just kind of the chest level, low angle, maybe high angle. One of my favorite shots is action through the crowd. And as far as the movement goes, static shot is still extremely powerful. If you want to add some motion, do the slow movement from side to side. Or lastly, you can start moving in or kind of move out. Mistake number 3. We've already touched on some equipment that you need, like some lenses that I mentioned at the beginning. But there's one more thing that can literally make your job so much easier. And I'm talking about camera monitor. First few events I was shooting, I didn't have a monitor on me and I was relying on that small camera monitor you have mounted on the camera. And there are 2 big problems when it comes to that. First of all, it's really hard to see if the main object is in focus or out of focus, especially with the sports when everything is moving all of the time. But secondly, majority of the events I was shooting needed footage in both horizontal and vertical formats. So I was trying to shoot everything horizontal and keeping stuff in the middle. And it was really hard to figure out if my main objects fit in that 9x16 little box, so the camera monitor can really help you with this thing. Basically, majority of camera monitors have the feature where you can set bars to the dimensions that you want to focus on. And then you just kind of keeping your main objects in the middle to then repurpose for social media while still shooting the content horizontally. Mistake number 4 people do all the time while shooting sports is focus just on the action. What's wrong with it? Well, nothing really. But there's one more thing you can shoot that will make the entire project so much better. Crowd and fans. I mean, just check out these few shots we shot and think about how cool they're gonna look in the final project. Later in the post-production, shots like this will help you to establish scenes like this.
Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready for some?
Or add that additional energy to the action like in this one. Since I'm a videographer, I'm gonna make everything look so cinematic. Close-up shots of shoelaces, sweat, etc. And that is kind of the mistake number 5. To be honest with you, even though those shots are gonna look amazing from the cinematic perspective, that might not be what your boss exactly is looking for. Or even fans of the sport, I might not be interested in it. Whenever I'm shooting sports, I'm trying to prioritize getting the main important action, rather than thinking how I can make it look the most cinematic. Just to give you a quick example from arm wrestling, I can kind of spend majority of my time focusing on facial expression of the athletes, on the sweat dripping from them, all of this stuff. And I still get few of those shots. But I know that my client and the fans who later gonna see that video on the social media will much more likely appreciate if I record a pin, if I record both athletes being in a frame, if I record a crowd. So if you're shooting sports, it's totally fine to get few cinematic shots to spice up the video here and there, but I would recommend first to focus on the important moments, on like goals in football, touchdowns in American football, etc., and later on making it more cinematic. I know in this video, majority from the shots were from the arm wrestling events. It's a super niche thing, but that's the majority of the events I shot, and I had the most footage from them. Either way, I hope you found it useful to learn about those 5 mistakes and you're not gonna make them the next time. And also, I just dropped the video of what apps and software I have on my phone as a business owner and content creator. I'll leave a link somewhere here, go check it out, and it will help us tremendously if you subscribe to the channel and leave a like. See you in the next one.